Oh hey, didn't see you there. Before we get into all these, crazy updates with Count to Sonica, all the new Vespers, I just want to set the groundwork for, okay, Dark Star-Lord hasn't changed one bit. Let's just make sure that we're good there. That way we can go ahead and experiment for everything else. So, that's pretty much it. Today, Dark Star-Lord. Let's go. If you take anything from this video, like literally anything, it's just, please use this team, okay? It's here, but also like just put it up here. Please use this team. Hengya can be substituted for any cleanser or like pseudo healer or whatever. Please just use this team for your team 1 and you'll be great. You'll be fine no matter what happens. You're gonna be okay. But if you're not adverse and used to Dark Star-Lord, here we go. So at the beginning of everything, here it is, the start form. So Dark Star-Lord has 2 phases basically. In his phase 1, he's a tank. He doesn't take that much damage and he's kind of like ramping it up, he's building up all these stacks. And phase 2, that's where he goes ham. He goes really hard, he hits really hard. And so for your phase 1, that's your team 1, it's your stall team. You're just gonna poison him, you're gonna make sure he doesn't get those stacks, which I'm gonna explain. And then in phase 2, that's where your team 2 and your team 3 come in. They are going to be your hard hitters. They're going to be getting you those 20 million scores. And that's pretty much it. That's the entire breakdown of the fight, right? So when it comes to team 1, here it is. Team 1. In this shadow form, what basically happens is that every turn that Dark Star-Lord takes, he's going to gain stacks. And these stacks equal to 1 AP. So every turn, he's gonna gain a maximum of 10 stacks. So every turn he'll gain extra 10 AP basically, and that will stack up until like the following turn 20 AP, 30% AP, 40% AP, up until 70% AP. And you really want to prevent that from happening. That way in the phase 2, your team 2 and team 3 won't have to deal with Dark Star-Lord taking like a million turns because he starts with 50% AP every round basically. So to prevent that, basically, you want to debuff him. And the most likely debuff that you can put is poison. So you want to bring poisons basically. And the best espers for these are Hall and Kara. So you're gonna bring Hall and Kara. Ife is okay, but if you don't have him built, or basically she's like too expensive because she's a 5-star and you really want to max these out, then just bring Hall or Kara. Hall and Kara are gonna be pretty nice. And you want to bring both of them, ideally. So after that, what do you do? Well, for this boss specifically in phase 1, he gains immunity actually for 2 turns on this skill, this 3rd skill of his, which you really want to prevent and you really want to mitigate. So you either want to bring some buff dispellers or you want to bring some buff stealers. Now, personally, or not personally, but the meta has been found out, and basically, instead of debuffing or stealing the immunity buff, you're much better off blocking the buff entirely from happening. And because buff blocker counts as an extra debuff, then that would also reduce the amount of star cluster marks that you would get. So most people will just bring Bayandina. Bayandina is excellent for this. She buff blocks on her, that is not what I wanted to do at all, but she buff blocks on her first skill. Even if it's not maxed out completely, she does pretty well. And if she does miss and she ends up getting immunity, well, Bayandina has some built-in debuffing, the buff dispel, which is really nice. Now, the next thing after that is, well, he does a bunch of damage, right? And I forgot to mention this, but every attack that he does, he will put a star cluster mark, which makes it so that they will take more damage and that they will heal for less, basically. So over the course of the fight, the star cluster marks will add up and basically your espers will become weaker, they'll become squishier, right? So you want to bring healers and you want to bring people that will make your team tankier, basically. So that is pretty much where Meredith comes in. Meredith is a very excellent unit that has been showcased many times, even on my own channel, and she does a lot for a team. She heals everyone, overheals, speed up recovery, makes it so that people can't get focused down, all the like. There's a lot of stuff here, but basically Meredith is a really solid choice, and especially at R6, which you can do because you can farm her from like the ritual miracles. You can farm Meredith really well if you just stick to it for a few hours. Yeah, a few hours, I'm sorry, but it's pretty fine. And lastly, you want to bring a cleanser, and the reason being is that on some of his skills he will inflict miss rate up, like this skill for example, and miss rate up will basically make it so that you're more likely to miss your debuffs, and you don't want that. So you either want to cleanse or you want to heal. You can also do both in someone like Hengye or like Clara, which is why here you can bring basically Hengye, Clara, Sally. Those are all good options. People used to use Asenath. I don't like Asenath personally because she's not really that good in my opinion, so I use a combo of Meredith and Hengye. So pretty much you want to build everyone fast, with high accuracy, with very tanky setup, because your goal here is not to do damage. In Team 1, for the phase 1 of the boss, you don't want to do any damage. You will do damage, but damage is not your priority. You just want to make sure that he gets very little stacks. 0 to 10 is ideal. Hopefully not any more. If you get any more, then you kind of need to work on your relics if you're using these units. And yeah, at this point, you will go into your Team 2, and when it comes to your Team 2, that's when you're going to be doing tons of damage. But for Team 1, basically all you need is poisons, buff blocker, and heal and cleanse, and that's pretty much it. So when it comes to that, you just use a team like this and you're pretty much golden. There are some alternatives which you can find in pretty much in the info section of the boss. The Dark Starlord has like an info section which you can scroll down, which is basically where I got all these screenshots from, and they're pretty accurate, they're pretty good, so you can just use those and you'll be pretty much fine. So this is the meteor vibes. Okay, so you guys just saw that meteor, and I forgot to mention this, I apologize. But one of the most important things that your Team 1 must do in most cases is they have to last until the meteor. And the meteor is basically this meteor smash, the stellar smash, which is Dark Starlord's strongest attack. And you really want to make sure that your Team 1 lasts until that part particular, because if you don't, then your Team 2 will be taking that extra attack, and that's gonna be really bad because obviously you want your Team 2 to live as long as possible and deal as much damage as they can. So yeah, just want to make sure, just want to get that clear. Now, when it comes to the Team 2 and the Team 3, there's basically lots of different strategies that you can pull off, and I would like to say that I think the most important thing that you can do for your Team 2 and Team 3, barring all of the everything else, is that you must have buff blocker on every single team. No matter what, there has to be at least one unit that provides buff blocker and buff blocks the enemy boss. And the reason being is that, yeah, in this form he will do a ton of damage, but as you can see here, his passive has changed, and now at the start of the turn, Dark Starlord will always gain crit rate up, and then if he has buffs, he has more damage. So if he has more buffs, he will do more damage, and a lot of the times his skills will steal buffs, will extend turns, will randomly attack, will gain attack and steal buffs. It's really insane the amount of buffs that he will steal basically, and so you just want to prevent that. You just want to outright completely prevent that, and so Dark Starlord is basically his biggest weakness in like all of his forms is just buff blocker. You really want to make sure that you have at least one buff blocker on any team. Aside from that, honestly, anything goes. There are some teams that will use cleansing and not bring immunity, even though he has buff blocker. There are some teams that will use defense down and use seer instead of having an attack up. It goes all over the places in terms of what buffs are necessary and not necessary, but whatever happens, you need buff blocker on any team, no matter what happens. Team 2 and Team 3 require buff blocker. Now, this is just personal preference. Obviously, if you have the best Espers in the game, then you can obviously do a lot of things, but I don't, and so at best, this is, I think, the best I can come up with. So my Team 2 consists of these units, Yunchuan, Ahmed, Embla, Chloe, and Gabriel, and my Team 3 consists of Falcon. Now I'm just gonna play this in the background, and you kind of want to synergize your teams. But basically, these Espers in here in the bottom row. These are usually the meta Espers that you will use, and yeah, you just really kind of want to mix and match. Make sure you have your bases covered. So for example, in my Team 2, I have an attack lead. He'll do a ton of damage, and he gives me speed up on my team, miss rate up, and yeah, a bunch of damage. My Ahmed will provide the healing, which is the sustain. And since he's R2, he will provide the speed up as well, which is kind of like the substitute for a speed up buff. My Gabriel and my Embla both have the defense down, and my Embla does insane amounts of damage. I'm sure you guys have seen Embla do tons of damage in different showcases. My Chloe is the buff blocker and the potential stealing in case the buff blocker doesn't go through. And my Gabriel's the immunity, the defensive for the team, and also attack down on the boss. So that's kind of like, you know, the balance. It's like, okay, we have all these different buffs and debuffs, and we're trying to just manage that. And my Team 3 kind of does the same. I will say that Falcon is kind of like the MVP. Falcon's like the shadow MVP of these runs. If you really want to get a good Dark Starlord team, Falcon is one of those units that you just have to build because he provides a lot to the table. And he provides attack down and speed down all in one buff, and you can build him very tankily, so he can kind of like be a sponge for Dark Starlord to kind of hit basically. And that works really well with Sally because Sally will redistribute HP, which doesn't block the healing. Because Dark Starlord at the later turns, he will start to block healing because of the star cluster mark. But Sally's S2, which redistributes HP across the board, making sure everyone's even, will make it so that even if your guys is getting focused down and your Falcon is at full health, well, now they can redistribute the HP so they're kind of half and half. And this will just make it so that your weaker units kind of have some extra HP basically in terms of Falcon. Falcon's kind of like your sink of HP basically. And the twins are really nice here because, you know, they feed off each other. They have speed up and crit rate up, which is really, really nice. They do a ton of damage and they provide the defense down, which is honestly kind of really hard to find. Very consistent defense down that you want to use is pretty hard to find. And yeah, the speed up is also very nice here. And also because they take a ton of turns and you want to build them very fast, it just works with Sally because Sally and her Sweet Harvest will just, you know, give you a lot of turns. And obviously Gaius is your buff blocker. He does a ton of damage. He just pounds in the damage. He's really, really nice. Now, what I will say is that, yeah, these units at the bottom are like some substitutions. You can mix and match, You can mix and match depending on which units you have. I used to use a Sander setup instead of a Sally setup. There are some people who have like a very high, let's say R2 Clara or R6 Clara. Then Clara would be a lot better here. Maybe you don't like to use the twins, well then you can substitute someone like Dahlia or maybe say Alice here and then use another DPS here. Maybe like Ophelia, maybe like Intisar. It really just depends. And yeah, there are lots of different debuffs and buffs that you have to manage. Personally, I don't have Intisar. And honestly, like I think the team 2 is set, but if you were thinking of like the best of the team comps possible available to known to mankind, it would probably be something along the lines of these units. It would probably be something like that. If you had like, you know, R6 everything, this would probably be one of like the better team comps, I think, just thinking off the top of my head. R2 Unis is really, really nice because he has the immunity, he has the AP push, he has the defense down built on his kit, and at R2 he has the attack up. There's lots of things to manage, and yeah, I've been talking for a while. But yeah, Team 2 and Team 3, you have a lot of flexibility here, but you have to basically build with what you have because yeah, that's 10 espers that you're using, and that's kind of a lot. So, you know, use what you got, and yeah, that's pretty much it. This run will keep running in the background, so I'll just keep that there. But I hope that this guy's holy cow, this is so late. But I hope that this video helped you guys, and I really appreciate all the support that you guys have given me. I'm really excited for the patch tomorrow, which is why I'm recording right now, for a very chill and good Sentinel Dark Starlord vibes. Tomorrow we're gonna have to deal with so many new things, so I hope that is helpful to you guys. My brain is very small. I wanted to record this, but yeah, the video's pretty much done. Hi. I'll just end this and I'll just put this in the background. Yeah. Bye-bye. No, we weren't supposed to do that. How do I remove my face? Let's just, sorry about that, technical difficulties. Okay. Yeah.